So you're planning a trip to Paris for the first time, and I am so excited for you. I've been to Paris a number of times, and as with my first trip to Paris, I had a lot of questions like, what do I need to know before visiting Paris? When is the best time to visit Paris? What should I pack? How do I get from the airport to the city center? And then how do I get around? Is English widely spoken in Paris? And what should I do, eat, and see, along with a number of other questions? In this video, I'll answer those questions and so much more. I'll share how to plan your first trip to Paris and provide as many helpful details to help you plan well for your first trip. Hi everyone, I'm Antoinette and welcome back to my channel. At Frolic and Courage, I like to help you plan well, have fun, and travel the world by sharing tips by destination. Today is all about planning your first visit to Paris. This video is going to be broken down into 5 major sections. First is essential planning tips like the airports, weather, what to pack, language, places to stay, money. Part 2 is how to get around, how to get to and from the airport, and how to get around once you're in the city. Part 3 is the must-see attractions and day trips and major events that you should be aware of. 4, we have to talk about what to eat and where to eat in Paris. And in the last section 5, I'll share my bonus tips from my personal experience to help you plan well. So let's get straight into how to plan your first trip to Paris. Part 1, essential planning tips. One thing we need to know before visiting Paris is why should we visit in the first place and what is the history of the city? I'm not talking about Paris, Maine, or Paris, Arkansas, or even Paris, Denmark. In this video, we're talking about Paris, France. Paris is a major city located in the northern part of France along the Seine River. With a population of around 2.2 million people and around 12 million people in the general Paris metropolitan area called the Île-de-France or the Island of France, it is the capital city, the most visited and largest metropolitan area in France, and the second largest in the entire European Union. Paris is split between the right and left banks of the Seine River, also known as Rive Gauche and Rive Droite. Rive Gauche is literally translated river left and Rive Droite is literally river right. Paris has a long history dating back to the 3rd century BC when it was founded by a Celtic people called the Parisi. Captured by the Romans in 52 BCE, it was expanded and renamed Paris by the 4th century and became France's capital in 987. Not 1987, we're talking 987. Paris has endured Viking sieges, the Black Death, and the 100 Years' War. It flourished under Philip II around 1200 and was transformed by Napoleon III in the 19th century. The city of Paris is notable for key events during the French Revolution and the Paris Peace Conference. But now it is a major financial, commercial, and cultural hub and has evolved into a major European city of culture, art, fashion, and gastronomy. So why should you visit, and what makes people even want to visit Paris? First and foremost, Paris is my all-time favorite city, and it is renowned for its beauty, romance, art, fashion, and cuisine. Visitors are drawn to its world-famous monuments, charming streets, diverse neighborhoods, exceptional museums, and robust dining scene, with an emphasis on robust. The city's unique blend of historic and modern attractions combined with excellent food and drink make it a must-visit destination. Paris operates on the Central European Time Zone, or CET, which is 6 hours ahead of the US East Coast Eastern Time and 9 hours ahead of the US West Coast Pacific Time. So if you're traveling from the East Coast of the United States like me, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, know that Paris is 6 hours ahead. So if you take a red-eye flight, you can arrive there in the morning. So how do you get to Paris, France, to begin with? Is a visa required? And no, it's not for US citizens, but always check your country's specific requirements. Paris has 2 major airports that you can get to. There is Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, or CDG. Charles de Gaulle Airport is the 2nd busiest airport in Europe, handling over 70 million passengers annually, and one of the busiest in the world. CDG is 20 miles or 30 kilometers away from the city center. Then you have Paris Orly Airport, or ORY. It mainly serves domestic and European flights and is 12 miles or 20 kilometers from the city center. Orly is actually the closest airport to Paris, but CDG handles a higher volume of travelers. So which airport should you fly into? And it really depends. I've visited Paris more than a few times now, and I've flown into both airports. I enjoy the short commute from Orly Airport, but once you learn to navigate CDG, public transportation is really quick, and I prefer CDG, but that's my personal preference. We'll talk more about how to get to and from the airports to the city center later in this video. As far as train stations, there are many to choose from if you're coming to Paris by train, and each station is located in the city center of Paris. You have Gare du Nord, which connects the northern France region and international destinations like London and Brussels. There's Gare de Lyon, which serves the south of France and international destinations like Italy and Switzerland. Next, you have Gare de l'Est, which connects to eastern France and Germany. There's Gare Montparnasse, which serves the west and southwest of France. And there's Gare Saint-Lazare, which connects Normandy to northwestern France. Now that we know a little bit of history about Paris and how to get there, when is the best time to visit Paris, France? What is the weather like? What about some packing tips? Let's talk about it. The best time to visit Paris is between April and June and September to October. There's also December for the Christmas markets. Generally, the weather is mild and crowds are smaller during these times. Late July and August are holiday months, and shops are likely to be closed and the crowds will be larger, so try to avoid those if you can. My personal favorite months are June, September, and early October because I enjoy sunshine and the warm weather that it brings. Now let's talk about the actual weather and the average days of rain. In the spring from March to May, there are mild temperatures of around 50 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, with the occasional rain about 11 days a month. You'll find cooler temperatures and it's ideal for outdoor activities. If you're traveling to Paris during the spring, pack light layers, comfortable walking shoes, and an umbrella. The summer months from June to August are peak tourist seasons, y'all. And the warm weather gets hotter with an average temperature of around 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It can reach up to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, with an average of 9 days a month for rain. You should pack light clothing, sunscreen, a hat, and comfortable shoes as well. The fall season or autumn is September to November. It has mild and pleasant temperatures from around 50 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's beautiful, full of the fall colors and foliage. On average, it rains about 10 days, so pack light layers, comfortable walking shoes, umbrella, or a fitted sweater. Think trench coats, jeans, a knit blazer, or a fitted sweater. The winter months from December to February are pretty cold with average temperatures of around 37 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit with occasional snow. And there's a lot fewer tourists during this time too, and an average of about 10 days of rain a month. Pack warm clothing like thick coats, gloves, scarves, and comfortable shoes. And as you can see, Paris has a relatively even distribution of mild temperatures and rainy days throughout the year, with slightly fewer rainy days during the summer months. This moderate and consistent rainfall contributes to the city's lush gardens that you'll see and green spaces, adding to its charm and beauty. Always check the weather before you go and pack accordingly. And speaking of packing, what exactly should you pack for a trip to Paris? If you're coming from the United States, make sure you have an international travel adapter for type C and E plugs, an umbrella, a leisurely book to read at a cafe, and a scarf or pashmina to be fashionably warm. All in all, y'all, be comfortable, wear great walking shoes, and don't overpack. The Parisians are known for their simple, casually chic, natural beauty, so pack neutral colors that mix and match well, like black, tans, creams, navy, and really don't pack a ton of makeup because that's really not the vibe. Just think simple, chic, elegant, and the same goes for men. Unless, of course, you are participating in Fashion Week. At that point, anything goes as long as it's high fashion. Oh, and don't forget to skip the berets. Like, it was cool to wear a beret 60 years ago, but not so much now. You'll really stand out and you won't really see Parisians wearing a beret now. But again, these are only suggestions. Wear whatever makes you comfortable and pack light. Who knows, you might find a great couple of pieces of clothing to add to your wardrobe and need the space to bring it back home. Again, just be comfortable because at the end of the day, nobody really cares what you're wearing. Just have fun and be comfortable. You'll also need to pack a data plan. You can buy a European SIM card while you're there at the airport, or you can have an eSIM like Airalo, or contact your phone provider to see if you can add a temporary international data plan. If you need ideas on what to pack, I'll put my Amazon list link at the bottom below where you can find shoes, trench coats, umbrellas, data plans, French language dictionaries. In terms of currency and money matters, is Paris expensive? Let's start with currency first. The local currency is the euro. The French franc was the national currency of Paris until about 2002, but now it is the euro. And are credit cards accepted? Yes, but American Express is like hit or miss in smaller neighborhoods and the further you go away from major sites. So really, is cash necessary? And I would say no. Not really. Paris is a modern city that offers contactless payment. Smaller shops and vendors may appreciate the cash, but honestly, I would use a credit card that has 0 transaction fees and make sure that your bank knows that you're traveling so you don't get some sort of like decline on your credit card. And if you really want to keep cash with you, I mean, no more than 100 euros, you can go to the ATM machines at the airport, you can go to your bank in advance, you can go to AAA. There are a number of options, but the most expensive option will be to convert your money at a currency exchange shop in the airport. Again, cash is not necessary, but it's up to you what you decide to bring. So honestly, is Paris affordable? And we all know Paris is known for luxury, and I tend to think it's on the more expensive side, but it can be as low cost or as expensive as you want it to be. I did a whole video on Can You Afford Paris, where I broke down expenses for a budget trip, a standard trip, and a luxury traveler. I'll put that link in the description box below and in the card above. So is English widely spoken? And I would say, kind of. The official answer is yes, English is widely spoken, but that doesn't mean everybody will speak it. And making an effort to greet people in Paris in French is really important. So much so that it can really make or break your trip. So here are a few phrases to know in French. There's hello or good morning, which is bonjour. There's good evening, which is bonsoir. How are you is comment ça va? Thank you is merci. Please is s'il vous plaît. Excuse me is excusez-moi. Do you speak English is parlez-vous anglais? Where's the restroom is où sont les toilettes? Where are the toilets? The check please waiter is l'addition s'il vous plaît. And if you want to ask for a pitcher of water, it's une carafe d'eau. These phrases will help you greet people and have a basic conversation in French. And don't forget to add the madame, miss, or monsieur, mister to these phrases. So merci madame, or bonsoir monsieur, thank you ma'am, good evening sir. It'll be really helpful. So now that we know a little bit about Paris in terms of money and language, where is the best area to stay in Paris? Let's talk about some popular neighborhoods. There are 20 arrondissements, or neighborhood in Paris, each with its own charm and character. I'll be the first to admit that there are many great places to stay in Paris. But if this is your first visit to Paris, here are a few recommended areas to stay for first-time visitors. We have near the Louvre Museum, which is in the first arrondissement. It is the center of Paris and next to the Musée du Louvre, shopping and within walking distance to major sites. Then we have Le Marais, which is in the 3rd and 4th arrondissement. It's a historic area with trendy shops, bars, and restaurants. Then we have Saint-Germain-des-Prés in the 6th arrondissement. It is one of the prettiest areas in Paris and is known for its literary history, cafes, boutiques, and the Jardin du Luxembourg, or the Luxembourg Garden. Then we have the Latin Quarter in the 5th arrondissement. It's a vibrant area with student life, bookshops, the Pantheon, and the Sorbonne. Further away is Montmartre in the 18th arrondissement. It's got a bohemian atmosphere with artists, cafes, and it features the Sacré-Cœur Basilica and the Moulin Rouge. It is farther away and a bit hilly, but it's got beautiful views. Then we have the Champs-Élysées in the 8th arrondissement. It's famous for its shopping, theaters, and proximity to major landmarks. If you are looking for luxury, then try the 8th arrondissement. There are different types of accommodations available: hotels, villas, Airbnbs, hostels. Paris has it all. And I personally stayed in the Marais district and I love it, and I love a good boutique hotel. And my next video is actually gonna be a room tour and a hotel tour of one of the places that I stayed in. You don't wanna miss it, so subscribe so you don't. If you're looking for the best hotels in Paris with a major view, it's gonna cost a little bit of money, but here are my suggestions. There's Hotel Plaza Athénée with an excellent view of the Eiffel Tower. There's the Shangri-La Hotel, which also gives you a view of the Eiffel Tower. There's Hotel Brighton, which gives a great view of the Louvre and the Tuileries Garden, and the Le Maurice, which gives you a view of the Louvre and the Tuileries Garden as well. Those are the best areas to stay, but is Paris safe for tourists? And I'd say yes, it's generally safe for solo travelers, families, couples, groups, and everyone. Paris is a large city, so be mindful of pickpocketers around major sites. Violent crime is pretty rare, but if you find yourself in an emergency, dial 112 to reach emergency assistance. So those are some basic Paris planning tips. Let's talk about how to get around in part 2. How do you get from the Paris airport to the city center? The first thing you need to know is that there are special airport prices and tickets. You can take a taxi, which is around 56 euros to get to the right bank, or 65 euros to get to the left bank from Charles de Gaulle Airport to the city center, but it takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Be sure you look for the green or illuminated taxi signs on top of the car. Taxis are available at the exit to the baggage claim areas of each terminal. And don't pay attention to anyone begging you to come into their car or taxi from the terminal. It is illegal to do so, so don't agree to anything if anyone approaches you before you exit the terminal. To get to the official taxis from baggage claim, just follow the taxi signs. If you choose to go by bus, there's the Roissy bus to Opera in the city center. It's about 17 euros, and you can take bus 350 to Gare de l'Est for around 2.15 euros with a T Plus ticket. It takes about 60 to 90 minutes. Then there's the train, which is my favorite option. Just follow the Paris by train RER signs to the station. The RER-B train will drop you off at Châtelet-Les-Halles station for about 12 euros one way, and then you can continue on to the metro or the RER to your accommodations. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes, and I love it because it is fast and efficient, and it can carry your luggage, but again, pack light and pack tight. You can also book a private transfer in advance where somebody will be out there standing with a little sign, and I'll put those links in the description box down below. So now that you know how to get from the airport to the city center, how do you actually get around Paris? What is the best way to get around Paris? I think the Paris Metro is the most efficient way to get around the city. I mean, there's no traffic down there, it's easy to take, and buses and bikes are also convenient options. Walking is ideal for exploring neighborhoods if you stay in the right neighborhood that's centrally located. And again, wear comfortable shoes. Are rideshare like Uber or Lyft or Bolt or Free now available? And yes, Uber and Bolt are available in Paris, and taxis are also readily available at a more expensive price point. You can also buy individual tickets to the RER-B trains, the metros, and the buses, or pick up a visitor or weekly pass. This topic requires a lot more information than I have for this video, so check out my How to Get Around Paris on a Budget video. It will tell you everything you need to know, including how to get around, what's the layout of Paris, the arrondissements, everything. It is a deep dive. Do not miss it, and be sure to watch it after this video in my Planning a Trip to Paris playlist. All right, so now we know how to get around and some planning tips. What are the must-see activities, attractions, and day trips in and from Paris? The must-visit sites and landmarks, the ones that everybody wants to see in Paris, are of course the Eiffel Tower. There is the historic Notre Dame Cathedral, and there are actually many Notre Dames in France, but the Notre Dame de Paris is the cathedral that is in Paris. There's Montmartre and Sacré-Cœur Basilica. There's the famous Champs-Élysées, the Arc de Triomphe, the Seine River, Les Invalides, the place where Napoleon is buried, and it's also a historic kind of military museum. And there's the famous Pont Alexandre III Bridge. And y'all, Paris even makes beautiful bridges. I don't understand, but I love it. There's also the Chateau de Versailles, which is a 30 to 45 minute drive outside of Paris. In terms of museums, Paris has a bunch of them. There is the Louvre Museum for 22 euros. It is the world's largest and most visited museum, housing thousands of works of art, including the Mona Lisa and the Venus de Milo. There's also the Musée d'Orsay for around 16 euros per adult. It's renowned for its impressive collection of Impressionist and Post-Impressionist masterpieces, and it's situated in a stunning former railway station. One of my favorites is the Musée de l'Orangerie for about 12.50 euros. It's famous for its extensive display of Monet's water lilies and its collection of works by early 20th century artists. I mean, I had a picture of water lilies in my college dorm back in the day, and I didn't realize how massive it really is. It spans the entire wall. It is incredible. There's also the Rodin Museum for 14 euros that is dedicated to the works of his sculptor Auguste Rodin. It features the thinker and other iconic sculptures with a beautiful garden setting. If you plan to see multiple museums and monuments, including the Palace of Versailles, the Arc de Triomphe, Musée d'Orsay, the Rodin, d'Orangerie, consider the Paris Museum Pass. For one price and over a span of 2, 4, or 6 days, you can access over 50 plus museums, including the Louvre. The prices range from around 60 to 95 euros, and some sites require advanced booking online, but others you can walk in. This video, y'all, is not sponsored by anyone, but I used the Paris Museum Pass on my first visit because I wanted to see all the museums. So if you're like me, look into that pass. In terms of shopping, you can go antique shopping. You can go to the Galeries Lafayette. You can go to the Champs-Élysées, because there are many places in Paris. And I'll put some of those links in my blog in the description box down below. But note that if you spend over $100 shopping, ask for a VAT form. VAT is value-added tax, and you don't have to pay that tax if you are a visitor and purchase over $100 worth of goods. So ask for the form, bring it to the airport, and get your taxes back. And this can save a lot of money, especially if you plan to buy luxury goods like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Hermès, all of it. In terms of nightlife and entertainment, you can go to a cabaret like the Moulin Rouge or the Crazy Horse. There are jazz clubs, nightclubs, wine bars, international performances like Beyonce and Taylor Swift. You can go to an opera or ballet at Palais Garnier, a stunning piece of architecture, might I add, or go on a Seine River dinner cruise and enjoy the river. In terms of sports, you can go to a soccer match. The local team is Paris Saint-Germain, or PSG, and there's also the French national team. You might hear chanting, Allez les bleus, allez les bleus, which pretty much means let's go the blues for the French national soccer team. Games take place generally from August to May as part of the Ligue 1 season at Stade de France, which is maybe 20 to 30 minutes outside Paris. For tennis, there's the French Open, there's the awesome Tour de France for cycling, and there's also rugby. As far as major events that you either want to plan to attend or to avoid, there's Bastille Day on July 14th. There's Paris Fashion Week in the spring and summer, so late February to March, and in the fall, late September to October. There's Nuit Blanche, which is an all-night-long party in October, where everybody wears white. There are the Christmas markets from late November to mid-December. There's Fête de la Gastronomie from September or in the fall, which is a 3-day food festival celebrating French food and culture. The Palace of Versailles has a masquerade ball in June, and there's Dîner en Blanc. It's by invitation or lottery only, but the attendees dress in all white, they bring a picnic dinner and meet at a random location outdoors in the city with a big dance party afterwards. It's sometime in the summer, and it has events in 120 cities across 40 countries throughout the world. There are various music festivals throughout the year, and there's a lot to do, y'all. So that's within the city. What about the best day trips outside of Paris, or the best day trips from Paris? There is the Palace of Versailles that I mentioned earlier, built by Louis XIV. It is a stunning property with gardens. There's Disneyland Paris. There's Giverny to see Monet's garden. There's the Champagne region, and I've went on a Champagne tour where they picked me up from a centrally located place in Paris, and they drove us out to the Champagne vineyards, and we got to taste and sample champagne and wine. I visited Moet and Chandon. It was a wonderful experience. If you're looking for day trip ideas, I will put a link to some of the best things to do in Paris, along with a number of different day trip ideas, from cooking classes, trips outside. You can go to the Loire Valley to see the beautiful castles. You can go to Mont Saint-Michel to see the castle on the hill. There's so many day trips that I'll put a link in the description box down below for you to check out. You can even take a day trip to London. It's only a 2-hour train ride away. These are just a few ideas, but if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments down below so we can all take a look at them. So how should you structure your itinerary in Paris? And how many days is enough in Paris? I've spent 6 days, 4 days, 1 day, just a layover in Paris. So I'd say, honestly, for me, 2 weeks is enough time. But since in the US we have limited leave, here's how I'd spend 1, 3, or 6 days in Paris. For a 1-day itinerary, in the morning I would grab a croissant or a tea at a local boulangerie. After breakfast, I'd head to the Musée du Louvre to check out the highlights, the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, and the Crown Jewels. Then I would actually go on a 2-hour walk. But hear me out, if the weather is good, you will see a lot in this 2-hour walk. Once you exit the Musée du Louvre, right near the pyramids, you just walk straight and you will be in the Jardin des Tuileries. It is a gorgeous public garden space. Grab a sandwich, hang out. Then once you're done, continue your walk to Place de la Concorde, which is actually the site where Marie Antoinette got beheaded. And then once you're past that, you're at the Champs-Élysées, the major shopping district. You could pop in a few luxury designer stores and then pick up some macarons at L'Oderay. Then continue on to the Arc de Triomphe. Again, it's about a 2-mile walk or 3.5 kilometers, but you see a lot within that walk, and 2 miles is about 40 minutes. In the evening, you can relax on the Seine River on a Seine River dinner cruise to see the sparkling Eiffel Tower. In the alternative, You can also go on a bike tour. In 3 hours, you can see the major sites, or go on a Seine River tour with the Eiffel Tower added on. The goal is to not exhaust yourself if you only have one day. If you're going to spend 3 days in Paris, here's my suggested itinerary. Do the exact same things that you do on the day 1 itinerary. For day 2, in the morning and afternoon, go to the Palace of Versailles. You gotta go, it's amazing. And go tour the palace, Marie Antoinette's Petite and Grand Trianons, the Queen's Hamlet, the gardens, everything. Then come back to Paris and relax for a bistro French dinner. That's exactly what we did. You can check out my Versailles vlog in the description box down below and in my Planning a Trip to Paris video. On day 3, you get to participate in French cooking by going to a morning cooking class. You can learn how to make baguettes or learn how to make croissants, desserts, soufflés, 3-course lunches, or even macarons. In the afternoon, you can go shopping at places like Galeries Lafayette. And in the evening, get artsy. Go see a ballet or opera at Palais Garnier, a cabaret at Moulin Rouge or Crazy Horse. You can go underground to check out the catacombs at night, or go to a wine bistro and just relax. For a 5-day itinerary, do the same things as you do in days 1 through 3, but on day 4, you can go on another day trip because you have the time. You can go to Disneyland Paris. You can go to one of the day trips I listed before, to the Loire Valley castles. You can even go to London. In the evening, you can come back to a brasserie dinner, and on day 5, you can slow it down. Visit the Cathedral de Notre Dame and or Sacré-Cœur. In the afternoon, you can chill at a cafe and people watch, or stop by a local boulangerie or charcuterie store. You'll have a picnic by the Champs de Mars grassy area in front of the Eiffel Tower. You can bring wine, create your own charcuterie board, people watch, or stroll along the Seine River. In the evening, I'd say treat yourself and end your trip on a high note and have the best chefs in the world prepare an exquisite final meal at a Michelin-starred restaurant like Le Cinq or Plénitude. And if you're coming during the winter, then check out the winter Christmas markets. And there's also Winter Fashion Week, or spend your time indoors at another one of the museums I mentioned. Y'all, there is so much to do in Paris that you will not want for activities. So now that we know what activities there are, what should you eat? The biggest part in Paris is the food. So what should you eat in Paris in terms of food, drink, and what is the tipping culture in Paris? Well, the tipping etiquette for restaurants and other services is really nothing. Service is included in the bill, and if you really feel led, you can drop a few euros or 5 to 10% at the most for excellent services, but tipping really isn't required. Is it safe to drink the tap water in Paris? And yes, it is. And if you want free tap water as opposed to paid bottled water, ask for un carafe d'eau. In terms of authentic recommended dishes, you can try, appetizers like the escargot. You can get French onion soup, beef bourguignon, croissants, profiteroles, wine, champagne, and it's not really champagne unless it comes from the Champagne region of France. Everything else is sparkling wine. You can get crepes, macarons from L'Odoré, like I mentioned before, or Pierre Hermé. Whatever you do in Paris, if you plan to eat at a restaurant, make reservations. Don't leave anything to chance because the dining scene is fire. It's hot in Paris, and expect to stay for about 2 to 3 hours. You can save money by getting a formule midi or a plat du jour, which is our fixed price meals. I did a whole entire video dedicated to dining in Paris, where we ate, what we purchased for the major foods, and where to find great food. All of that will be in a video in my Planning a Trip to Paris playlist. Now you all know a little bit about Paris, how to get around, money, what to wear, the weather, what to eat, what you can do. Now let's get into the bonus tips. For souvenirs, what should you bring back home from Paris? Well, there's a number of different things. I brought back some really cute Parisian coasters to sit on my coffee table. You can bring back a scarf or a pashmina. You can pick up a delicious spice blend. You can pick up local artist painting on the streets. There are books, there are aprons. You can even bring back macarons as a treat, and any desserts as well. There are also cultural norms that you need to know about. The French culture is very formal, so always greet people with a bonjour madame or bonsoir monsieur. It should be the first thing off of your lips. Don't say a word unless you've said these words first, because these simple words can have a lasting effect on your experience in Paris, so do not neglect the formalities. Also, beware of scammers in public areas. There are many tricks like slapping a bracelet on your wrist and demanding payment, or fake petitions they want you to sign, dropping a ring on the floor and asking you to pay. The scams are endless. Just be mindful and be vigilant and you'll be okay. Don't even talk back or make eye contact, just keep it moving forward. Also know that on Sunday and Monday, you may see a lot of establishments closed, and restaurants are typically closed between 2 and 7 p.m. If you're hungry during these hours, pop into a boulangerie or a patisserie or visit a fast food restaurant, because yes, Paris has McDonald's too. Also, don't get caught up in a social media fantasy thinking Paris is this quaint little neighborhood. And I've seen countless videos of people who see Paris as terrible and boring, filled with trash, and are really disappointed because it didn't meet their expectations from what they saw in a perfect little 20-second Instagram reel or TikTok. And I don't want to take away from their experience, but what I will say is that Paris is a major city. As with all major cities, there will be a lot of people, traffic, trash, rats, every good and not so good thing that comes with being a major city. It's on par with New York City, Rome, and London. It is my absolute favorite city in the world, and it's beautiful, and it does have idyllic neighborhoods and green spaces, but just know that it is city life. So manage those expectations. And speaking of being in a major city, you may come across a public strike during your visit. Whether it's a transportation strike or a sanitation strike or a social justice strike, the people come together and use strikes to drive change in the society. Usually strikes are planned in advance and are publicized in the news, so check the news before your trip, y'all. But if you happen to come across a strike, just find an alternative to your itinerary, a plan B. My next bonus tip is that reservations are key in Paris. Museums, restaurants, shows, RSVP if you can a few months before your trip for the best selection and availability. Also, build a lot of time in your itinerary to just chill. Y'all, the wonder of Paris is found in the small cafe, sipping on a drink, admiring the beautiful surroundings, and people watching. So embrace this Parisian lifestyle, slow it down and enjoy it. And y'all, this list is not exhaustive, so if you have any other Paris tips, please put them in the comments down below, as well as any questions you have about your first trip to Paris. Oh, don't forget to check out my videos on how to get around Paris on a budget, what to eat, tips for visiting Versailles, and my vlog so you can see exactly what it was like in Paris at the end of this video in the Planning a Trip to Paris playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!